And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is November 2nd in the year 2023. We're going to talk a little bit about real friendship. What's really missing in today's day and age, with all the division, with all the war, with all the propaganda, is true friendship. And back in the day, put yourself, say, in the shoes of someone in the late 60s living in San Francisco, or if you don't like that analogy, maybe Portland, Oregon, in the late 70s, and you're an author or you're a writer of a newsletter, you're a content creator, and you're talking to people over coffee, you're more than likely going to make friends and connections with people that might even be long-lasting, like for the rest of your life. The difference with today's internet-based conspiracy theory movement is that there's a real lack of empathy when you're dealing with social media. And so when you're dealing with YouTube, even Substack, you have a lot of people that want to be entertained. They like to be inspired. They like to absorb content that personally helps them. Unfortunately, because we're in a new day and age, and a lot of people are affected by these technologies and the solar flares, even if they think that they're not affected by the moon cycles and the eclipses, and I also talk about that. Now, a lot of people have a certain angst and energy about them when we go through certain cycles. And so it may be damaging to their ego, a lot of people's ego, a lot of people that I've met, most of the people that I've met in my life, they see it as a threat to their ego if they acknowledge that there is a solar influence even over their own lives. But there is. And in the incoming podcast, when I'm super calm and in a meditative mode, I'm going to read to you the 5-page post that I put together in 2019 when I was super focused and still living in Southwest Colorado. And I'm going to share that information with you. But Freeman, for example, he started a website called the Freeman Agenda, or the Friendship Agenda. And Freeman was a nice guy when I met him. He's changed, though. And he, like others in the alternative media, they don't talk to me. They don't see me as friends, as their friend, even though I've treated them with a certain amount of respect over the years and I've promoted their work. But I know the real reason why they've turned against me. And it's my failure to get on board the certain agendas that are out there, including my exposés on Donald Trump and Alex Jones, which are very much a part of the establishment. They're not acting outside of the establishment. If they were acting outside of the establishment, they would not have the support that they have. So there's a reason why they're doing what they're doing. And there's a lot of people out there that will place judgment against me for saying the things that I've said. A person like me that's dealt with a certain amount of harassment also and interference from conspiracy folks, not so much the government, but that's there too, more so social media interference. Most of the slander and the horrible things that have happened to me have come about from connecting with so-called truthers, people that profess to be against the global government or the New World Order, but they don't, in fact, like my analysis of what's coming with Russia, what's coming with China, standing up for off-gridders being kicked off their land, standing against the racism and the truth myth, and I mean all the racism, not just the anti-white racism, and I call out the black supremacy, which you can find all over on the internet now. And so it's real easy for people to act like my content isn't valuable, when in reality, it's very valuable. And if we weren't so bombarded with all this propaganda, with all this content, sending us all these different directions, people would understand the things that I'm saying. The problem with conspiracy theorists, a lot of them, is that they're so contaminated with a lot of false information from other truthers that they have made the mistake of listening to. And so they may be listening to other people, such as myself, but when they're listening to other people that they have way more trust in, that they're way more entertained by, some of the things and the energies, right? Not just what they're saying, but the energies coming out of these individuals, it affects the person that's listening. And so when they come over to my work, if they've already been listening to all these people, a long list of names that they've come to trust, you know, the way that I describe it, it's like mixing ice cream and wine, or it's like putting a hamburger in a smoothie full of vitamins. Like, you can mix it together if you really want to, but I really don't suggest that. Nor do I suggest that you call yourself a Muslim and read the Quran, and also call yourself a Christian and read the Bible, and then also read Gnostic texts, which is why I don't say that I'm a member of any specific religion, but I have the discernment to study different faiths and look at the common theme, but I don't do a complete buffet of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Right now, I do have my faith in Jesus, and but just because you pray and you put faith in God, just as I did in a recent video, that does not mean that you cannot face persecution. There is such a thing in some parts of the world as Christian persecution, just as there is such a thing as Muslim persecution and Gnostic persecution and New Ager persecution. And so it's hypocritical for people when they know there's Christian persecution when you stand against the devil of this world, when they act like it's not normal for me to have safety concerns, when a guy like me has been disarmed because of Gunnar Standard, who came into my life in 1998, 1999, and it was my mistake for letting him, my only friend at the time, one of my only friends. I had another friend also, but my other friend was working full-time and didn't really have the time to mentor me, and so the past is the past. So I spent more time with Gunnar, and with Gunnar I got led into hard drugs, and from there I ended up with a legal problem. And so Gunnar did not embark on the path of being someone speaking out against certain truths. He did start following Stefan Molyneux. He did start calling himself a volunteerist, even though in reality he's a big-time taxpayer, probably making $200 to $300 grand a year in Los Angeles as some sort of a construction engineer, electrical foreman. So it's amazing how even though Gunnar had certain legal trouble, just like me, he went on a certain path, different than I, and he has turned out to be very, very successful financially. And so if Gunnar was really my friend, for example, to use him as an example, he wouldn't just be there when it's time to do dope. And he came around in 2009, years after the fact, after we had been sober for many, many years, and he said, "Here, Alex, here's $100. I'm making amends to you because I'm in the 12 steps. And he was a cocky SOB even during the 12-step days and wasn't really a good friend then. Still had an attitude that he knew it all. Still had an attitude of my way or the highway, just like he did when he was pushing drugs. He fed things into my mind that led me to believing that, yeah, if we were psychologically tough enough, because we both like to do the martial arts, and saw ourselves as somewhat fit and capable, and he used that type of arrogance and false confidence to encourage me that we were tough enough to handle something called heroin. And later on, when we got into recovery, he was very dominant in his attitudes about AA in the same way that he was dominant and influential to do drugs. And so even though he gave me $100 in 2009, and that was nice, he also was making a fat salary. And that's not really making amends for leading someone into permanent legal trouble that basically bans someone from having the Second Amendment. If we were really friends, I would forgive him. If he kept up with my work and listened to the older Alex Ansary that he sabotaged, knowingly, the younger Alex Ansary, then I would forgive him. He's not forgiven because he doesn't care about the new Alex Ansary. He thinks nothing of me but a lot of these white supremacist-leaning alternative media figures, whether they be Stefan Molyneux or visiting the Adam Kokesh dance-off when Adam Kokesh was simply being self-serving, right, in that whole dance event in DC, doing it for ratings, when he was on RT, right, Russian propaganda. I had a meetup also in 2009 that had upwards of 15 to 20 people that would come. One person of African American heritage, never anyone Middle Eastern, everybody else white. So what, 95% white with one black guy. Not a single one of those individuals watches my program now. Not a single one of those individuals subscribes to my Substack now. I even sent one of those individuals by the name of Scott a recent video after I said, "Hey Alex," but he didn't explain why he defriended me. I never attacked him, I just didn't get on board the Trump agenda or the Obama agenda, and I criticized Portland unconsciousness, the Portland vampires and warlocks and witches, and I'll be back with more on that. But see, I've tried to talk about the plight of Portlanders, and nobody cares. Nobody cares about my content regarding Portland. And the Portlanders spite me for speaking up about the real darkness of that city. But thankfully, Emily is trying to help me connect with a potential sponsor to bring back Outside the Box TV to Access TV. All I got to do is create it on my end, and someone that chooses to sponsor my show, which is basically fill out the paperwork in Portland, Oregon, and physically walk the show into the cable access facility. And they can air my show remotely. And this has been done before. This has been done with other shows. This has been done with other documentary films. For example, I saw Alex Jones's 9/11 Road to Tyranny. This is not an endorsement of InfoWars, you know that. But it was because of whoever donated or turned in that tape in 2002 that I saw that movie, and it set me on the path that I ended up on. So I think back to that group that used to sit at my table at It's a Beautiful Pizza in Portland, Oregon, right off Belmont Street. It's now a fancy bar. Maybe the bar is closed and it's another restaurant. The truth is, like Mike and Joyce met each other through me. That would be Oregon cop watcher Mike Bluehair, who told me in 2014 to get out of his house. I went to get food with his girlfriend, Joyce, at the time, and he had this type of jealousy as if maybe I wanted Joyce for myself. That's what I sensed from this guy who was addicted to violent video games. Not something that I would expect from a supposed anti-war, left-leaning activist. Mike Bluehair is a piece of shit, and he was a piece of shit. But I thought he was my friend for a long, long time because he came around me a lot. Mike was feeding off of the people that were around me. Mike was looking to get in on that which I had created, just like everybody else that came to that meetup. And so they met each other through my meetup. Other people met each other through my meetup. Some people even added Gunnar on the social media. And so a lot of these white people, they found a deeper kinship amongst themselves. It's called tribalism. They found a deeper kinship amongst themselves, but they didn't give a fuck about Alex Ansary, who was the man that brought them together. There's also some creeps that showed up. There's also one woman by the name of Angel. Beware of those that call themselves Angel and are anything but. She comes down to that thing to complain about her boyfriend. Oh, my boyfriend this. Oh, my boyfriend that. Oh, okay. And she's hot as hell. I don't care if she has 3 kids. I wanted her for a while, and badly. And so she kind of played that up. Gave me those long, long hugs. Played it up like maybe, you know, we might be together. When in reality, she'd be like, my boyfriend says you're like David Koresh, and say other things that were hurtful. And so it was easy for her to also unfriend me from Facebook when I criticized the real Portland energy. And now you look at Portland now, you look at all the drug addicts now in Portland, you look at the high cost of living now, you look at the increased inhuman abductions of women, right? And other than Emily, right, I don't see anybody in Portland trying to encourage anyone to help me out. And I'm telling you, the truth is that is straight up satanic. There is no excuse for people to ignore my work when I've been right, and more right than Clyde Lewis, and more right than Alex Jones. I don't do 3 hours of content, 4 hours of content every day, pulling everything off the internet for ratings and clicks to frighten the living daylights out of people, right? There was a time in which I did online radio. Going back to the theme, these people in the end are never your friends. Conspiracy theorists are never your friends in the end. Which is why one has to protect their energy if they're going to talk to people over email or social media or the YouTube comment section. You know, if I thought that those people were my friends on my YouTube channel, my main one, comments would be open. But because I'm super psychic and sensitive, and I know when someone's messaging me, either on Proton or Facebook, or leaving a comment, or even when I know when a guy named Gypsy on BitChute uploads a new video, I'll go looking at his channel and see that he uploaded it a half hour ago, and there I am checking out his video. So I'm connected with others too, and they're connected with me. Just like that guy Steve Bax, who went apeshit, who went Rambo at Southern Utah University, who threatened cops, who threatened students. This guy was so psychically tapped in, the second I upload a video on a dummy channel, not my name, he's screaming out my name on Twitter, right? Even though he was unstable, he still had that psychic ability. So just because some people are psychic, it does not mean that they are following the teachings of Christ. God gave us this ability here to sense things. It's a part of our instincts as an advanced animal on the earth. And because people deny the fact that they have this sensitivity, they end up still being manipulated by the dark forces, by the voices in the head. And yet they will claim that they're not into psychic awareness or potential, or that it's against the Bible. The truth is, we were given an ability to have intuition. So unless people are going to learn how to harness it and develop it properly, not that I'm going to be your teacher on that, but I'm telling you that that gift is already there. So people can talk about the fluoride in the water, the chemtrails, and the GMO. It's more than just the damage that it does to your body. It's the damage that it does to your pineal gland and that part of your brain that helps you access non-local awareness. But the unseen forces, they know how to manipulate people through the brain. And so when I might talk to people about certain things that have traumatized me or bothered me, it's amazing how many people in this world, by the hundreds to thousands, will treat me poorly, or will act like they're being attacked, or will act like they're super uncomfortable about that what I'm saying when I'm simply describing to them the things that I've been through. They think that it's not okay to have concerns for one's safety when you're speaking out against China and Russia and human trafficking, and you stood up against corrupt counties in Colorado that were kicking off critters off their land, and you stood up against militia members and Nazis and on and on. Have they done that? Have the people that they listen to elsewhere in the so-called truth movement done that? Are they also an ethnic minority, knowing that I'm the only man of my blood and you know that's the truth? In a truth movement dominated 99% by whites that are not being targeted at the level that most of them are claiming. Meanwhile, they'll sit there and target Latinos. They'll sit there and they'll target all immigrants, and yet they will act like they are victims while they have millions of subscribers. Doesn't matter if they end up getting demonetized. They can set up a Patreon. They can set up a Substack. But I do not recommend setting up Substack financials because Substack robbed John of his $150. He sent me $150 before I set up my bank details. They kept that money, and there is no record. There is no record of that donation. So if you're going to donate to me, and I do recommend that you do that on a monthly basis, $25 a month and upwards of $50. Some of you can't afford it. The rest, don't worry about it. But in time, I would like to see that, and I am worth every penny. There are people back in the day that would comment on my channel saying, why don't you go work at McDonald's? Why don't you go do this? When for years I did work at crappy restaurants. And the people that I worked with in Southwest Colorado did not like the fact that I had applied to work there. People asked about my ethnicity, and people got angry with me and showed callousness towards me when I talked to my own YouTube channel. And so, in the modern day conspiracy movement, truth movement, whatever the fuck you want to call this, I am a man of God, but words are just words. Unless I'm using them at someone that doesn't deserve it, words are not a threat, right? In this effing supposed truth movement, real truth tellers face real persecution, especially when you're exposing what Satan is doing in the truth movement, right? And you can't make friends in an arena like that where most of the people have had their brain hijacked. They can sit and listen to me for entertainment and not even bother to heart my likes or to like the video or heart the Substack or comment on the Substack. Then how can I expect them to be friends and allies when the shit hits the fan? Answer, they can't and they won't. So I do suffer some days more than others because I live a life of isolation. Because I face targeting, I just can't run around interviewing people and doing man-on-the-street interviews in downtown, in the off-grid areas. I knew better than to promote my content when I lived off-grid in Southwest Colorado. Other people can travel around, Rex Bear can travel around, other people can travel around and they go, way okay. They don't have fear. They're confident men. They have a higher value. When those people haven't been targeted, are not ethnic minorities, whose ancestors' graves are not being bombed back to the Stone Age. And so the truth is, folks, people are going to be drawn to my content because I'm speaking truth. But when I share with them what I've been through in my life, a lot of them will throw me away and treat me like a lesser than for daring to speak up about what has happened to me. And so ultimately, if I really want friends, I'm going to have to write a book. And I'm going to have to go on a book tour. And that book needs to be marketed towards what we would call normies, or people not already being indoctrinated by Alex Jones, David Icke, and Clyde Lewis. And I know there's a lot of you Trump support closet fans out there, Alex Jones closet fans, right? I appreciate you're listening to my broadcast. But I'm not totally comfortable with the fact that you think you can serve two masters. Because you cannot serve the dark side and those that are leading people towards the dark side. and also be serving the true Christ consciousness. So you have a choice to make. And a lot of you might actually choose to tune out in the coming months as I go deeper and deeper into the truth. And a lot more people may be finding my podcast in the end. But when it comes to real friendships, right? It's a needle in a haystack.